Good afternoon. Today we're at the Rancho Bernardo Historical Museum, and we're interviewing Willa Olivas, who has lived in Rancho Bernardo for many years. So we will be getting an interesting history from the beginning.
Okay, you ready for me to start?
Yes. Well,
Okay, I was married when I was 18, and my husband and I both worked at General Dynamics at the Edwards Rocket Base, and we started moving around right away. We moved here to Rancho Bernardo when I was 18, and that was in the 60s, something around 66. And I worked for a while at, it was Harry Summers Inc. at the time. And so I worked a while, and then they started sending my husband to Nebraska, Kansas, New Mexico, Texas, Vandenberg, short periods of time, maybe 6 months, at a time. Then I had a bunch of kids. I had 4 children. And we moved back, to Rancho Bernardo, and I went back to work for Harry Summers Inc. at the time. They were just getting ready to sell it to AVCO. And I worked for the Vice President of Construction. His name was Jim Pardon. And then Bain Sparks stole me away to work in sales as the administrative assistant, and to him, and also to Gail Storza, who was one of the first people to do all of the advertising for Rancho Bernardo. And that was a fun job. Then my husband's job took us to Edwards Air Force Base again. We were there. Then we came back, and I went to work in construction. And then Dick Weiser, who was the executive vice president, came to me and he said, "I'd like for you to go to work for Lou Barnes, who was the vice president of Hotel and Resorts." At the time, AVCO was going to build hotel and resorts all over. We were going to build them in down, let me see, where the Ritz-Carlton is now. We own that land. I don't know if you knew that or not. We also was buying property in Hawaii, and we were going to build there. We bought a helicopter, and we had a helicopter pad at the end. And so we were going to fly up, to where Ritz-Carlton is. And my husband wasn't too happy about that. But anyway, then AVCO decided to sell the hotel division. And so we sold it to Colachis at that time. And they didn't have, when I phased out there, they didn't have a spot for me to go. So Dick Weiser says, "I don't care where you put her, you bring her back. And you find a spot for her. I don't care who you have to fly, but I want her back on Monday morning." So I went back to work in construction, and I worked with Elwin Booth, who we plotted houses. And I don't know if you know what that means, but we would work with little floor plans, and we'd fit them on the lots. And then we picked out tile for some, and shake roofs for some. And that was fun. I enjoyed doing that very much.
was that 7 Oaks?
That was all over.
Rancho Bernardo.
Yeah, all over. We were building the Greens. We were building not only 7 Oaks, we were building High Country. I think that came later, Oaks North.
So that must have been in the 70s.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm so old I get the things all, the years mixed up. But anyway, and we were doing that. L1, I think he retired. And I worked for, I forget the guy's name, Leonard Miner was his name. So nobody liked him, by the way. But anyway, I thought I'd take a year off and stay home with my kids. And I got bored. So, and I'm getting the dates mixed up a little bit. That was after, no, Dick Weiser came again. He says, I want you to run our it wasn't Time Warner, it was a Rancho Bernardo antenna system. People only paid $3.10 a month for cable. So I ran that division. I had some installers under me. We had construction people, and I had a technician. And then we had an antenna site, which is, you know, where the shopping in, up by Savon, there was a hill up there. It was which later became Bernardo Heights. That was our antenna site. And so that, I had a girl working for me, her name was Sandy Beauvais. And the television ran all the time while we were in the office, so we watched soap operas. we had to have it on because, you know, because of outages. We had a lot of outages back then. So we had to repair, what was his name? He is one of the founders, P.J. Still, used to come into the office all the time. And he was represented, you know, the homeowners here. And so anyway, that was before, then Time Warner came along and bought it. But I do have to tell you a funny story, is we were at the Mercado at the time. And the old Mercado, not the new one now. And my construction guys cut the cable. And no, they cut a water line, that's what it was. So nobody had water. The hairdresser downstairs was washing hair. Nobody had water. So and they come and told, I told Sandy, pretend like it's not our guy. We'll get it fixed, but pretend like it's not us. So that was pretty funny. But we got the water line fixed, and you know, everybody was back in shape again. So from there, where did I go? That's when I decided to take a little bit of time off. Then Mr. Brown from San Diego Realty Associates, and he owns Scripps Ranch Realty, San Diego Realty Associates. Well, somehow he got my name, I don't know how, but anyway, he wanted me to go to work for him. So I see, and he sold real estate, and I was just the secretary, assistant, or whatever you call it. But anyway, I see these people making all this money. And I said, by George, you know, they can do that, so can I. So I had those 4 kids at home, but at night I would study till midnight and work a full-time job until I got my license. And then I had gone over, I was the assistant manager of Oaks North Community Center. I've had a lot of jobs, but it's not because, you know, I've been fired or anything, it's just, it just happened. But anyway, what was his name? He was the manager, I was the assistant manager of Oaks North. And I did all, you know, I did the books, and I kept track of all the costs, and I put money in the bank. Then CDs were paying really well. So we had CDs in all of the banks, which was the one that paid the most, that's where we would go. So, and I did the books for them. But anyway, then after that, I had my license, but still had to work because, having 4 kids is a lot of money, so it took both of our salaries. Then I went to work for Rancho Bernardo Inc., or Rancho Bernardo Realty, down on the corner.
Was that Bert Ball?
Bert Ball was my boss. And, but going way back, the first office I worked in was catty-cornered across the street from, it used to be Safeway, which is Albertsons now. There was a building there they moved in from Balboa Park. That was my office. They moved that down to the corner, which is on Bernardo Center Drive and Rancho Bernardo Road. So they moved that building down there. And let me see, I'm getting a little bit of this, I'm trying to remember. So then finally, they brought me in there I started doing property management. And they let us sell. And we were still building new houses. So I could do property management and sell houses and sell new houses and resell houses and did it all. And I had a lot of investors coming in, a lot of Canadians came. And they would buy up properties. I mean, all of us did very well then. And then after they started selling, then I would list them. And, but I had, I think, almost 100 properties I was managing there at a time. And then, I started selling them off. From there, Jack Carter wanted me to come over there. So I worked for him for a while. And then Remax, I was the first woman that Remax hired. And there were nothing but guys there. But then we became the top selling office at that Remax office in all of San Diego. Because most of us are brokers. And they did hire women later. And we were doing really well, and then, as you know, it went, Sandy and Ron bought it from Bill Simmons, he's an attorney, and he was also on the board at, real estate board as an attorney. And then he sold it to Ron and Sandy Fish, and they went bankrupt. When the market went bad. And unfortunately, and then I decided, okay, I'm going to go ahead and work in my house. And, I'm a broker, so I can work on my own. And, but I'm trying to think of maybe some funny stories I could tell you during all of those years and all of that working. One of them was when I worked for Lou Barnes at the end. The Risso's daughter was getting married. And so they left all of they had a bunch of silver stuff, platters and stuff. So he said, I want you to take this back to the Risso's and, take it over there because it's, it was for the wedding. So I did, but nothing but Mr. Risso said, you gotta come in, both of them, you gotta have a glass of wine. I was a teetotaler then. And so, man, they got me snookered. And I called my boss and I said, I'm snookered. He said, well, just when you get down there, just go on home. And so, but they did. They kept wanting to feed me and give me wine.
Was that Nina's wedding?
Yes. And then another funny story was when I worked at the inn, Chef Hacker. He was from Austria or someplace, but he was very, very talented. We had 2 chefs, Rudy and Chef Hacker. And he would make ice sculptures. They were beautiful. And then he would let anybody see them but me. And one time he made this beautiful ice sculpture with the little dinghies hanging out. You gotta cover those up. And then he bought a motorcycle, and he wanted to take me for a ride. Now, do you remember when we wore the hop pants and the boots and hot pants. Well, here I had hot pants on, and he had his chef hat, and down through Seven Oaks we went on a motorcycle. And no, I think I had high heels on. That was a funny time. But he was very talented, could make those ice sculpture. I don't know if you guys ever heard of him or not. But I brought things from the inn and left them here that showed his pictures and stuff, you know. They're here, here's somewhere.
Well, yeah, okay.
And it was just, I've had a lot of jobs, but I've been here a long time, 49 years. So through the years, I've had, all of these jobs, and it was fun. Rancho Bernardo was fun.
So it sounds like you knew all the movers and shakers
Yeah, I did.
from the beginning.
Right.
What was it like in the very beginning, living here?
Well, there were not many grocery places to buy groceries. There were not very many restaurants to go, we went to the inn a lot.
There was the liquor store.
And Dees Fryman owned the liquor store. Did you know that he had a little golf cart? He would deliver gallons to these little people in Seven Oaks. They were caught, and he would take his little golf cart and deliver those. I mean, there were a lot of drinkers back then. I mean, really, a lot of boozers. And he would have, his wife would go on a cruise. I think Lil was her name. And so he'd have all of us girls at alcohol over for dinner, or lunch at his place. And he'd serve alcohol. I mean, Rancho Bernardo was built on alcohol, I really mean it. Because some of the contractors and stuff, when I was in construction, I'd stick up for them. I mean, I didn't want the boss to find out that they were over at the Ivanhoe. I don't know if you ever heard of the Ivanhoe in Poway.
Mm-hmm.
And there weren't very many places, but they spent a lot of time at the Ivanhoe.
Did your children grow up here?
Yeah, they all went through the schools, and I was very active with them. My son played Pop Warner, and we did bunco parties so that we raised money for them. I had a daughter in the band, and I had another
Is that
daughter.
Poway High?
Poway High, and we would go to all of their performances, and then my son played baseball, and they were all four very active. And then when I worked, they all helped me. They delivered flyers, and I would pay them, but they all. And my daughter-in-law went to work for me when she was 16, and then she got her license at 18, and she now is part owner of American Heritage, which I think they have 2,000 properties they manage.
Wow.
And she's got 40 employees that work under her. There's 3 owners, so.
What is the thing that really stands out for you about Rancho Bernardo? Is there one particular thing that made it such a special place?
Yeah. At Christmas time, we would decorate the center aisle, the olive trees. Every state would come and decorate. And then 4th of July, I think there was one celebration where Harry Summers would have this enormous cake made, and it would be on a flatbed truck. And we would feed all of anybody that from Rancho Bernardo wanted to come. So we had cake for everybody, but it was a cake with the outline of Rancho Bernardo.
Wow.
I mean, another thing, we were family. I mean, like family.
Well, how many people were living here at that time? This was in the beginning.
Well, there were quite a few when I came here. I mean, there were people in Seven Oaks, there were people in the Greens, and a lot of people, in Poway. And so you know, there were quite a few. Oh, another thing I wanted to mention. I was the first bridesmaid in the church at the Rancho Bernardo Community Presbyterian Church. And my picture is there, my husband and I, and the couple that got married.
So you saw a lot of things being built here, such
Yeah.
as the church and.
The church wasn't even finished, which she wanted to be married in it. She wanted to be the first. It wasn't even finished. And we went there and they got married.
Wow. Now, did Abco on the inn in the beginning and they sold it to
No,
Collages?
actually, no. Harry Summers, Fritz Hahn from Texas is the financier, and the Daly brothers. Now, the Daly brothers owned the land, and it was Harry Summers' concept. So they started, and they named it Rancho Bernardo Inc. That was the name of it. Then later, they sold it. You know, so Harry Summers remained on the board for 5 years after that. And I had a crush on him, by the way, because I thought he was, you know, he was just really great. But anyway, he asked me to come to, his secretary was out sick for a week. He asked me to come and work for him. And I was thrilled. You know, it was really an honor. But yeah.
So,
They bought later, and then they sold Bernardo Heights to another developer.
Well, I guess my question was, Collages wasn't the original
He
builder?
was just the one that bought the inn.
Okay, but
Yeah.
it was Harry Summers that built the inn?
Yes.
Okay.
No, Collages expanded it,
Yeah.
but no, Harry Summers built it.
I understand there were parties there, I think maybe once a month, that all the
Oh,
rest.
all the time. When I was in real estate, they wined and dined us royally. It was, you know, it was just fun. I remember they rented a big old cruise ship, or you know, a big old ship, and they had caviar, but you know, we were selling a lot of property then for them.
Yeah.
So they rewarded us very, very nicely.
So were you here when they started the 4th of July parade? Because I guess that was a big thing.
Yeah, I was in it every year. My kids were in it every year. We would have a float for, you know, RV Realty, and my kids were in there. And one of the mayors, he got a big kick. He spent probably an hour with my granddaughter. What was his name? He has a talk show downtown.
Oh, Hitchcock?
Hitchcock, yeah. So the parade, we were waiting, there was a delay or something. So my granddaughter was 2, and he's just spent an hour with her talking to her.
So really, it sounds like everyone knew each other here in the early days.
They did. They did.
And you were probably in on the Symphony on the Green as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was fun.
That was the real party in Rancho Bernardo.
Yeah, I wish they had that again. That was really fun. We would bring, you know, our Kentucky Colonel, and then, you know, our wine, and sit out on the green and listen to, what's that guy that's singing? He was here. He's singing with, not Madonna, but the other one.
Oh, Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga. Yeah, what's his name? I like him. But anyway, he was here. There was a lot of people here. So,
Tony Bennett.
Tony Bennett, yeah. Right. And who else? We had some really famous, I think Bob Hope was here.
I saw Bob Hope here.
Yeah.
I thought it started with the San Diego Symphony.
Symphony on, yeah, San Diego Symphony on the Green, yeah.
And then it evolved.
Evolved and we
into-
had, you know, different personalities would come in. And then at one time, I had to laugh because I didn't know I was being interviewed. And I told this girl I was talking to, I says, you know, I can't get by with anything because everybody knows me. If I was having an affair with my husband, everybody would know about it. Well, they put that in the paper.
Was that the local, the Bernardo
Yeah.
News?
And they put everything in the paper then. And then there was one time you don't tell your clients you're going out of town because they have a hissy fit. So I was flying up to Oakland. I had a friend there and I was going to be gone a couple of days. And the girl what was her name? There was Barbara Warden and
Eileen Haig.
Eileen Haig. Well, what do I do but run into Eileen Haig at the airport? In the paper it said, airport sightings. Willa Fitzgerald on her way to Oakland. For all my clients to see. So like I said, you can't get by with anything here.
Well, it sounded like it was a small village.
Yes, it was.
So have you told us everything you know?
I'm trying to. There's a lot to tell. This used to be a construction site.
Oh,
Right here. Before, we were right next to the winery. We had the construction people had all their stuff here. When we were building.
yeah. So it sounds like Rancho Bernardo really took off, even though it was remote from San Diego.
Yes. It was, we call it the 52-week vacation because we have tennis courts, we have golfing, and so that's how we advertised it. We advertise as having the best weather in the whole world because you have a break in the mountains and we get the breeze. We don't get it today, but So anyway, we advertise as having the best weather and the best place to live because the amenities, and when you buy into Rancho Bernardo, you buy into the community centers. And we have community centers in each area.
Whose idea was that to have it? Was that a Harry Summers concept?
Actually, I forgot to mention another person I worked for. And he was in charge. He set up all of the homeowners associations. What in the world was his name? Anyway, I was his secretary, and I would, take shorthand. And even the private club, he set that up. And I would go take notes. And I'm sorry, I can't think of his name. But I worked for him, while I was at AFCO.
But was that a relatively new concept in development of a community?
I think we were one of the first planned developments in the United States. I really think that we were. And to set up the homeowners associations, the community centers, the private golf course, the public golf course.
Quite an undertaking.
Yes. It was a brilliant idea that Harry Summers had. He was a brilliant man, I have to tell you that. Not only was he good looking, he was really brilliant.
Well, that's nice to hear. Well, Willa, we really appreciate all your insights because it gives us a picture of Rancho Bernardo before we all came here. But it's nice to know how it was in the beginning. And we have conducted this interview on March 27th.
March 27th, yes.
2015 at the Rancho Bernardo Society Museum. at the historic Rancho Bernardo Winery.
Yeah, it was fun.